Hello, this is Council Club. It's Thursday, April 2022. I'm Scott, Sarah. I'm gonna run the show, I guess, today. So yeah, we're gonna go over last week's meeting and talk about what's on the agenda for this week. I might jump around a little bit. I feel like the most are. It was I feel like the Dr. Hughes city health director, that seemed to be the biggest one. I don't want to call it controversial, but just sort of, we actually got some no votes for once, not enough to stop the city council or the mayor from, from relieving, from demoting the city health director. So that was kind of a bummer.
That was a huge bummer. I wrote to, I didn't go to the meeting, but I wrote to Danny Begley about it, and he did respond, but I could tell by his response that it's like, oh, he's gonna vote for it. He's like, we've been in conversation, blah, 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 blah. It's like, okay, whatever.
And did you hear when Councilmember Begley spoke? I think it was like directly at Dr. Hughes. He said, I'm going to support you, like, I guess kind of looking to the future when we need another health measure. I'm just thinking,
right, it's like basically he's saying, I'm going to listen to you and do what you say, but you know, so what? Then just let her do her fucking job.
Yeah, but man, the lawsuit, that how the Nebraska Attorney General dropped the lawsuit was the next day.
Today, yeah, or yesterday, yeah, the day after.
Yeah, the next day. It was kind of
ridiculous.
Yeah,
that's because they had already lost. You know what I mean? At the and they had no end in sight, and so they're same face with that. You know what I mean? And Vinny tried to tie it to, like saying that if we pass this, then they'll drop.
I know that was weak. It's exactly. Like you keep making up reasons to do this.
Right.
And like preventing or allaying the lawsuit is like the newest excuse. And it's like, but that's not, it doesn't, yeah. Oh God. Yeah. I can't even speak in full sentences about it because I was just so pissed.
Yeah. Yep. So it was Festerson was one of the no votes.
My voter registration back and found.
Yeah, Festerson and Johnson were the two no votes. Yeah, so we now have the mayor is now our health director, or I guess, yeah. I feel like we already had a strong mayor. Now we got even a stronger mayor.
Mayor plus city council.
During that conversation, Begley said, this is my favorite part about politics is people getting together and solving problems. And it's like, hey, Danny, guess what? Right now, you're officially out of politics. You should be into policy. You don't know the difference, and you're a moron.
Oh, no kidding. I mean, it's a problem. It was a solution looking for a problem. It was not there. It wasn't a solution. It's just adding politics, adding more politics to it.
It kind of feels like the worst aspects of a strong mayor system and like a strong commission system. Like it's going to give the mayor more authority. But then it's also going to like slow down decision-making processes at a time when like decisions need to be made quickly.
Yep. That's my sense too.
Yeah. The worst of both worlds. Yep.
The only silver lining was the unelected bureaucrat t-shirt. I'm not sure if Raygun is already going to make that. Is that did I say it right?
Oh, I don't know. I got a good line for later about unelected bureaucrats. I'm gonna save it.
I feel like Dr. Hughes even said that she's going to wear that t-shirt on Casual Fridays. So if Raygun, I would expect the unelected bureaucrat to be coming out soon in t-shirt form. So that was we had that vote, the city health director. And then the other one, the other no votes were for the streetcar. But that actually, so it was the streetcar authority, and that one passed. We had 2 no votes. It was Melton and Johnson, and I believe there was 0 discussion. So this is a 3rd reading one. It wasn't like a consent. So maybe there was a discussion last week, 2 weeks ago. There wasn't any discussion this week, and we just got 2 no votes. Again, from Melton and Johnson on the streetcar authority. I kind of was surprised that anyone's voting against anything to do with the streetcar. I kind of feel like you're going to get on the mayor's naughty list.
You said Melton voted against it?
Yeah, Melton and
Yeah.
Johnson.
That's surprising.
Yeah, it was really interesting. Melton was on 11:10 a.m. Today talking about that, and tried to she was just explaining why she voted no, and she's basically swinging right of the mayor, saying that she thinks it's fiscally irresponsible because she hasn't seen it's rushed, and I mean, of course that's true, but saying that it's she hasn't seen the financials of how this is going to work out, and so she can't in good conscience vote for it, which is, I mean, honestly a good point, but it's just like that's and I was very surprised because she very, very rarely breaks with the mayor.
Yeah, and I could see her even saying, that the streetcar certainly doesn't go to District 7, her district. And so, I'm sure her constituents, especially her Republican constituents, are be like, I don't want to pay for a stupid streetcar downtown that I'm never going to use.
Yeah, I think it was all posturing on her part, but yeah, and then she'll.
To quote Brinker Harding, all the city council people represent all of the citizens.
Yeah, that was great.
Melton has said that too. It's like, yeah, it's like that. You absolutely know they're posturing when they get on the, we all represent the city.
And
it's
so
one
actually,
city.
and so looking forward, I'm going to bounce it around, but looking forward to this week's agenda, that real estate purchase that made Brinker Harding and Johnson fucking get into it, where he said, represent all of Omaha. That's finally back. It's been 2 weeks since that was laid over. I'm sure it'll pass, but it seems like Councilmember Johnson, if you have a liquor license in District 2, if you have anything in District 2, she's going to ask you some questions, going to make sure you talk to the neighborhood association. I feel, this is a perfect example. And we were kicking ourselves over this liquor license. Sarah and I haven't spoken at city council, I think, since the library. So we're going like on maybe a month or 2 months, maybe more. I almost went to speak about the liquor license specifically at the Shakedown Street in Benson. And I was just going to make fun of Pete Festerson being in a band. And he did it himself. And so there was a liquor license against the Benson outdoor parade. And they were just like, yeah. We'll give you you can play until midnight. That's all good. And Festerson said,
No, Begley said that, yeah.
Yeah, Begley was like, that Festerson hits he even said drums. Bangs on the rocks, bangs on the skins. Like they were just having
It was so gross.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched it. I saw it. And yeah, so Begley is like, yeah, I'll go if you book Pete's band. I'll be in the front row. And then, yeah, oh my God. It was just like, this is so gross.
Those guys own like 2 or 3 bars, and they get these liquor licenses like 4 times a year for each bar, right? So they're like in city council all the time. And Festerson makes the same joke every time.
Yep. Yeah, so Shakedown Street is it used to be Barley Street. So right in Benson, I don't know what that street that would be, 60th, across from 1912.
I think.
Yeah, just people in the chat are asking. So anyway, so we had the Shakedown Street. It wasn't even a liquor license, it was for a special use permit. So they've already got liquor inside, but yeah, they're gonna be having an outdoor concert. And so that was one liquor license. Then immediately after was a liquor license in District 2, completely.
But yeah.
No, it was one after the other. Yeah, it went Pete Festerson and then District 2. And boy, what you couldn't there was no laughing. I guess maybe Councilmember Johnson does not play the drums. But she was asking, and she made a really good point. Whoever the liquor, I didn't know the establishment. turns out they're a real stand-up. They clean up.
Oh, it was the Get Down.
I don't even remember, but yeah, I guess
Yeah.
so.
Our own folks on North 24th
Yeah,
is the District 2.
Oh, it was
District
Bone
2 one. And they were completely different. I mean, they were like respectful. They weren't making any jokes. Councilmember Johnson was asking like, okay, you're doing good. And she even, thanked them for all the good that they do for the community and aren't just, oh, it's just so funny, like complete, yeah. So that was interesting. That made it fun. And I'm just kicking myself for not going. So next time the Shakedown Street is going for a liquor special use permit, I'm gonna go and remind them that, hey, Festerson plays the drums. And then we were even thinking about talking about how the Foo Fighters drummer had died, and they brought it up, and like Festerson had like a moment of silence or wanted to acknowledge that we lost a great drummer last week. It's just like,
The only good thing about that thread of conversation was that there was a little bit of shaming on Amy Melton because she didn't know who the Foo Fighters were. There was reference to the bar owner looking like David Grohl. She didn't know who that was. And then when they were talking about Taylor Hawkins, she of course didn't have a clue. So Pete got to like school her on who Taylor Hawkins was. So, I mean, the petty, catty bitch of me appreciated getting to like thunk on Amy Melton.
yep. And speaking of Amy Melton, I just saw, so we are in Megan Hunt's legislative district, District 8, and there are 2 Republicans running against Megan Hunt. One of them is a woman, Marilyn Asher, I think. I just went on her Facebook page, and there's a picture, a picture and a whole endorsement from Amy. So Amy Melton is endorsing Marilyn Asher for Megan Hunt's district. And I'm almost positive that all of Megan Hunt's district, LD8, would fall inside of Pete Festerson's district. And I just don't think we're gonna see, I don't even know if Megan would accept it, or I don't know. If Festerson were to endorse the Megan Hunt for the district that is in his district, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like I don't know if Democrats just don't do that. He might do.
Well, I know that when I ran, Megan Hunt wouldn't endorse me because I was an independent
Yeah.
running against a Democrat. So she might like a Democrat endorsement. But I don't think we can talk about Megan Hunt without talking about how awesome yesterday was. That was like a
Totally awesome. Yay, Megan Hunt. And thank you, Sarah, for being there too.
Yeah, it was cool. We a handful of us carpooled down and sat in the balcony for a lot of hours. I'm also wondering if that has something to do with my hip acting up. It's just those fucking hardwood benches for hours. But anyway, it was pretty powerful to be in the rotunda with a bunch of other people wearing pink Planned Parenthood shirts and some just a lot of intense. It was an interesting day. But yeah, between that and then new Supreme Court justice today, there's some good things happening.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, in this group especially important to point out the good, because we usually point out all the bullshit.
Definitely some good news for sure.
Anyway, carry on.
Oh, Megan Hunt was on the front page of Reddit today. I am assuming, I saw someone, not CNN, but MSNBC was telling her congratulations on her Twitter handle. So yeah, certainly getting some notoriety. And so the person, Marilyn Asher, we got her mailer today, and it doesn't say anywhere on there pro-life.
But it's all of the children she could find to fit in the photograph. And it's like, I'm here for mothers and babies. And it's just like, you don't want to say you're into abortion bans, but that's basically what.
Go to her Facebook page. And Facebook page, call to action on LB 933. I strongly support. Yeah, so.
Yeah.
Is this the candidate that I saw somebody on Twitter saying that some property owner in the Benson commercial district was papering walls with her posters or something?
I bet you it's Maryland.
Yeah. And
okay.
that maybe if you saw it on Twitter, you saw me say, yeah, that's the same person, Mike Padani. He has like a little weird print shop. He's the one complaint that the bike corral got, and then that's what the mayor.
Oh my God.
so many
That's,
complaints.
that's exactly what I saw.
Yeah.
So I don't love that guy either.
So yeah, was that it? The legislator? I feel like we've been watching the legislator.
Oh, there's a.
Oh,
I
the
mean,
veto
there's
overrides, but
a-
not the emergency. They did not override the emergency rental assistance. Yeah.
But charter convention was also last week.
Okay. Yeah. So getting back to city council last Tuesday, or this just a couple days ago, they talked about the charter convention.
High five, Mark, for testifying. That was good.
Yeah, that was awesome, Mark. Basically just talking about how the past, I don't even know, since 1965, we've had 25 members, and it's now we're going back to 15. And then I started looking into the numbers because up until 1981, we didn't have districts. We did not have city council districts. So we got city council districts in 1981. Before that, there were just 7 city council members at large. And then a really interesting fact, so before 1956, we did not vote for mayor. We voted for 7 or 8, I think it was 7 city commissioners. And then whichever
Right.
one of those city commissioners got the most votes, they would sort of have like an agreement that, okay, you're going to be the mayor for, it wasn't even agreed for 4 years. Sometimes they'd only be a mayor for a year and they would switch it up.
And they decide who was going to be the direct the police department and who
Yeah.
was going to oversee fire and who was going
Public
to
Works.
oversee parks and rec. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like, what the hell?
And none of them had any, they wouldn't run on, I'm really good at, public works or park. I'm running for the parks department. You just ran. And
Right.
then, yeah, they just kind of divvied it up. So
What
I
a
tend
world.
I tend not to look past 1956. I just feel like I know we had mayors before that, but I tend to look at 1956 moving forward, and then specifically with the charter convention. In the World Herald, they called 1965 the first convention. And so we've had, was it 65, 73, 83, 93, basically every 10 years. This is the first one that has come not on the 10-year mark, but we found out, I don't know if, I guess we found out on Tuesday, and I sort of suspected that the reason that it's being done now is so that whatever amendments or recommendations that the charters committee makes will be on the November ballot.
Right.
And so they gotta bang that through. Otherwise, let's say they were to wait until next year, which would be the 10-year 23, that wouldn't get on to the ballot. Matt Cousy, City of Law, said that they might have to do a special election, which would cost the city money, and there would be low turnout. But I thought I've done a little bit of research. I don't know if I've ever seen a special election just for charter amendments. So yeah, that's why we're having it now. And I started to research since 93, they've been talking about, specifically at the charter convention, they've been talking about moving the city election to line up with the governor, the statewide election. They've been talking about that since 93. So 93, 03, 13. The last 3 charter conventions, it's been talked about and recommended, but it never passed the city council. So
I've heard before that it's a state law. But I can't remember, I just remember hearing that around the mayoral elections last year, and people are saying, well, it's not a city thing, it's a state thing.
No, it's if I just am coming back from kids coming to bed. Are you talking about the election cycle?
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
No, Scott's right.
I feel like the state thing would have been like adding a city council member. So I think they wanted to, Justin Wayne was talking about having there be 9 city council members. That was a state level thing. I feel like but specifically elections, I know that Mark Gudgel, when he was running for mayor, that was one of his platforms or one of his issues was specifically moving the elections. He was even thinking that it could be done by a ballot initiative, some gathering signatures in Omaha.
I think he thought he could do it by executive order. Cause
That's-
I mean, he was saying he was gonna do that the first day he was there if he got elected. And I mean, maybe I'm jumping ahead several steps, but I mean, I think it's a locally controlled action.
And there's
And
multiple paths as well. I did find something in 2014. You know how the city council has like some recommendations. They'll make recommendations to the state legislator. Like the one that got pretty contentious this last year was the liquor licenses for the motorcycle clubs. You remember District 2 was saying you're going to require the Los Diablos motorcycle club to get a liquor license, and it was basically trying to go after the strip club. So they could not be BYOB anymore. So anyways, along those same lines, in 2014, the city council discussed a similar saying that they should either recommend or not recommend to the state legislator that all metropolitan class cities should have elections on even years. And so it was just a recommendation to the state legislator, and that did not pass. And it was weird because it was brought by Amy Melton. All the Democrats, basically East Omaha, voted against it, and West Omaha was for it. And that did not pass, but that was just a recommendation to the legislator. So I don't know. I kind of feel like that was my one little pet project to try and get try to get the elections moved. And I have very little faith. And then another thing, the reason I'm shaking my head and kind of like in anger is, did anyone see the mayor's press conference, the state of the city? Anyone?
No.
Who would have seen it? Nobody knew it was going to happen.
It was on April 4th.
Except for the people she invited.
Yeah. So I as soon as I get notifications, I subscribe to .com's YouTube channel, which is where we watch the live stream of the city council. Basically, whenever, and same thing with Douglas County, whenever there is a live stream at the chambers, I get a notification on my phone. I get a notification on my phone. It's like, the mayor's having a state of the city address. I'm like, I go and look on Twitter. No one's talking about it. No one, it literally was not. And she even said, the mayor said that this is the budget hearing and the state of the city are her two most important addresses or
presentations or whatever.
And she did not want anyone to be there. I mean, we actually paused it and looked at it. Was basically all the people from the office, like, just, all right, put down your whatever you're doing. And so city council, all the city council was there. Just basically her staff, but no Larry. And there wasn't any public. You couldn't ask any questions. Even the press couldn't ask any. She didn't have a question and answer section. But anyway, so she talked about the chart during that press conference. The mayor talks about the charter convention and makes a joke, makes an April Fool's joke. That's what she thinks about it. She thinks it's funny.
I saw that, yeah.
And she was like, I'm going to recommend that city council has 12 members and term limits. And she's like, April Fools. And it got it was just like, but in all seriousness, the things that she has been, her pet projects are specifically language changes. I haven't read the charter, but apparently whenever it mentions the mayor, it uses he, him pronouns, and so she wants it to be changed to they or.
No, that was my suggestion, change it to they, but she wants she or he, which I'm like, just change it to they, because like, for all of the reasons, but I'm sure that won't happen either.
And she's talked about that multiple times. And we also know that she wants to eliminate the requirement that whenever the mayor is out of town, the president of the city council becomes acting mayor. I think it's acting, not intern, but acting mayor. So even if the mayor were to go to Lincoln for like the day, Pete Festerson becomes the acting mayor. And we actually heard from DeWan, I think, that she has been out of town a handful of times, and that Pete has been the acting mayor within the last year a handful of times. We just don't ever hear about it. In the past, when like if you just, again, I use the World Herald archives. I'm always looking up when we've had acting mayors, and whenever the mayor takes a trip, whenever mayors in the past have taken a trip, you'll get an acting mayor. There was one time when not Fred Connolly, maybe it was Fred Connolly. We had, I think it was Fred Connolly that was acting mayor. And so it was the first time that Omaha had a Black mayor. And that was like a big deal. But you just, the World Herald just is not what it used to be. So, but apparently Pete has been acting mayor quite a few times. You just don't hear about it.
Well,
anyway,
and given
so
that the city doesn't have a communications department, yeah, they, back in the day, they, they were sending out news releases every day about what the mayor was up to or schedules or whatever. And those days are long gone.
Yeah. No, and it's funny how she, specifically Jean Stother, will say, I got email and a cell phone and all these communication devices.
That she doesn't use.
But she doesn't use.
I mean,
exactly.
because, I'd rather watch golf than talk to my constituents and, residents of a city that just got bombarded by a hideous storm.
Did you see on her, I don't know if you follow her on Facebook, but she's talking about how we're going to be on the Golf Channel during the Masters. They're going to talk about how great our golf courses are. I was just like, oh, is that the golf course you were at during that storm? Yeah. She loves golf. It looked great on TV. So
did you all see that they released the name of all the appointees to the charter convention?
No,
where is that? I was looking for it today and couldn't find it.
I just put the link in the chat.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you.
But you'll notice that Mike Kennedy is on there.
Oh,
That's what I wanted to say. Talk about an unelected bureaucrat.
Yeah, that's the one.
I was just thinking like,
he is the worst. He is just like the worst example of this insider baseball. This is just gross.
I know.
Okay.
That's kind of what I thought too when I saw it. I was just like, wow, that guy is unelected and making a lot of decisions.
Oh, I have to tell you. So in my email to Danny on Monday, I'm so glad you're highlighting John Fox, because one of my points to Danny was, about the point that Mark made at the meeting. So thank you, Mark, for doing that, about the shift in the percentage of representation, shifting to the mayor from the city council. And one of the points I made is that I trust the city council members to nominate people to the city charter convention with a wider diversity of, based on lots of criteria, including, cultural backgrounds and whatever. And he in his response said, oh, well, I think John Fox is a fine guy. And I'm thinking, oh, great, there's one Black guy. How nice.
John Fox is not a Black guy.
Oh God. Okay.
Yeah.
Is he Danny's boy?
I don't know.
Is he a union guy?
He's a gay florist. That's what I know about him. He's a nice enough.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Clearly I misinterpreted that whole exchange then, and I have no idea who John Fox is.
Yeah. It's funny. I don't,
not Jaqueen Fox.
yeah, John Fox.
No, I know Jaqueen.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, this, yeah, he's a floral designer. nice enough human. It seems like he's involved in, he'll have like fundraisers for different political stuff.
Okay, well, he's not Danny's guy, because who's
No.
Danny's guy? Okay, yeah,
Danny's right
this,
here.
yeah.
And I will say, John was the president of the Field Club Neighborhood Association for a
Yeah.
long time.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay.
But Tim Pendrell, he's a legislative aide. He's Danny's guy, and he also is like really involved in SONA.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not, all right. Well, that's not necessary. I mean, that's okay. But ooh, Mike Kennedy, yuck.
And then
Kathleen
do you guys
Kauth,
recognize this one? Kathleen Kauth.
No, who's that?
she ran against him.
She ran against him, but also she's she's an anti-masker, and she
Oh.
spoke at the mask hearings. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, she did run against him. Yeah. And then Mike Kennedy was actually, this is his second go round. He was in the 2013 convention as well.
Yeah, I think that's how he got his library gig,
And
was
then-
after doing the charter convention.
I feel like,
Well, and
Reverend-
Jorge Sotolongo is on the planning board.
yeah,
Okay, yeah, a real estate guy, of course.
Yeah, and then Janet Bonet, big South Omaha neighborhood person, Deer Park for a long time. Those are kind of the names that I recognize on there.
Yeah. Oh, and an interpreter. Is she a sign interpreter or a language interpreter? Or, well, I know they're both languages, but what's her interpreter role? Is it
Oh.
Spanish, English, Spanish,
I don't
or
know specifically.
sign?
I have no idea.
I'm just looking up. Yeah, Joseph Barker. This is the guy. He actually lives up the street from us.
Oh, is he the one
Reverend
that
J.
applied?
Scott Barker. When I knew that name sounded familiar. So when Ben Gray did not get the appointment to the land bank,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then the next round, when they had nominated Charlene Rogers, I was in the audience, and Chief Tommy Warren kept saying that the people that applied don't live in District 2. And I'm sitting next to one of them that did apply, that we know lives in District 2. And we're like, it was such subterfuge. And so I got up, and after when Tommy Warren was leaving, I asked him, I'm like, hey, who applied to District 2 that doesn't live in District 2 land bank? And he said, J. Scott Barker. And so I looked him up. He lives up the street. I'm pretty sure it's the same one that lives up the street from us. It was some silliness. I'm like, we were talking about Cheryl Weston. Cheryl Weston was sitting right there. She said,
Oh, yeah.
applied. We know she lives in District 2. We were talking about Tiba Brown. And actually, it was funny because I was like, actually, you live in District 2, but not for another literally 10 minutes later, they redistricted. They voted for the new redistricting map, and Tiba Brown, they didn't know that, but that's not what Tommy Warren was saying. Tommy Warren said it was J. Scott Barker and Candace Price, who's already on the land bank. It was such horse shit.
Yeah,
He pulled two names out of his hat. Wow, so Reverend J. Scott Barker.
I know
What I
Nedjel
think is
McPherson.
interesting. Go ahead, Mark.
I know Nedjel McPherson, one of Mayor Strother's appointees. He's a very smart individual, really, really intelligent.
How do you say that last name?
McPherson, Nedjel McPherson.
Oh, sorry. Okay, Nigel McPherson. Okay.
What's his like?
He's I worked with his wife at Habitat. He's a lawyer, I believe, and just I don't know, nice guy, but one of Mayor Strother's appointments.
No.
Yeah, I was surprised by some of her appointments, like just like not being as I don't know, not as stereotypical as I would have thought.
Well, we'll see what comes from it. Yeah, I want to go back and look, because I think it said all income levels was one of the things that we're going to nominate people from all income levels. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how we're going to find that.
Well, it's got all their jobs listed right there.
Yeah. I don't see any homeless people.
I was just
imagine-
gonna say, are there people who don't have homes? I've probably not.
I'd imagine that's the least diverse, like if you were to break, like the income level would be the least diverse, if you were to break it down, like they're all probably.
Right. They probably all have, bachelor's degrees at least, and maybe more.
Sure, education, I suppose, yeah.
Well, not sure.
I think it's interesting. What I was going to say is just that they had already, on Tuesday, they said the list of appointments is coming out tomorrow, even though they haven't already voted. They don't vote on the convention makeup. I mean, obviously it's just a formality at this point, but it's like, I would have liked to have had a few of the questions that you brought up, Mark, answered by the council before they vote on it or whatever, because they're voting on it, I guess, this coming week.
Yeah, Kuzi said they'd all been notified. The nominees had been notified the day before the council meeting.
But then
So-
did you hear how he was quick to be like, but that's not what's on the agenda today. It's just the makeup of the agenda.
Right, just doing the convention is like on the agenda today, but
Yeah.
he did say, it's like, oh yeah, we notified all of them yesterday. It's like, oh God, this seems somehow, so there's, no opportunity unless you're an insider to influence who is on that, who's in the room.
Already a done deal. Yeah.
Yep.
But it did sound like, and thank you, I guess, it did seem like they tried to answer some of your questions, Mark, with just like, yes, it will be live streamed this time. And they made it sound like that was part of their reasoning for shrinking the number.
Well, funny thing, Bernard or Indenbosch called me over, or no, he said, hey, I want to talk to you in the lobby afterwards, because he was going to answer some of the questions I had. But I was like, well, I'm not waiting until after Matt Kuzi is grilled. So I just went over and sat right behind him. And before Kuzi started lying, he said, I said, he was explaining to me it's going to be every Monday, Thursday. Okay. At what, gave me the times, all these details that Kuzi was withholding. And, he said, I said, well, what about the live stream? It needs to be live stream. He said, it depends on if we can get people to man the cameras and this and that. I'm working on it. And so at that point, it was still up in the air. So that it was good that Festerson followed it up with the question and Kuzi straight up lied, like, oh, he's got it reserved and he's worked and everything's under control. It'll be broadcast. Well, so it isn't, it was not necessarily going to be.
Yeah, that's huge. I think I don't know, it'll be interesting. And I guess they're making it sound like there will be opportunity for public input, and that's why they're putting it in the legislative chambers, because they know, this is where people come to interact with their government. So we wanted to make sure, at least they did say it'll be in the evening, which I appreciated.
Yes, I agree.
At least an attempt, I guess, to make it a little bit more accessible for some folks. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. And then they also were talking about how you could make suggestions, to the group, but it sounded like you weren't going to be able to submit your recommendations to the committee. It would have to go through law, so that you weren't making a suggestion that was going to be against like state or federal law or something like that.
Right. And that's what Indenbosch said, is he's sorting through hundreds of requests already. And some are just not going to make, this, that, the other, but.
What do you mean he's sorting through hundreds of requests?
Of people sending in, I think this should be changed. I think this should be changed. And he said that some of them are just written like on a napkin, and some of them are written in proper legal language, and some of them are have a possibility of and some of them are just so that's what he's sorting through them, and
they're sending, what's his title?
He used to be Matt Kuzi, and now he's Matt Kuzi's boss. He's like the executive law department guy.
Okay, and so people know the charter's coming up, and they've been sending recommendations or something to the law department.
Bernard.
Yeah.
And then how would that how would the law department then take that to the mayor, who would make a recommendation to the convention if they liked some, like, just say that that was like a good form of engagement? Like the law department, like they don't make recommendations, right? Like citizens.
Right.
make
He's just
recommendations.
compiling, but I got a 1-year-old that just walked outside. Bye.
In Den Bosch. Okay. We're trying to figure out how to spell his name.
Oh, wow, that's a
because
fancy one.
Yeah, it is a fancy one. So yeah, I guess that's one way to get your thoughts to the committee. I don't know. We'll see. I, as usual, am equal parts hopeful and skeptical, but it is what it is. So, oh, to me, the highlight of the charter convention conversation was watching Larry get escorted out.
Oh my God, that was hilarious.
Yeah, it's always interesting when that guy talks, and he was real jazzed about open meetings or some shit, and then Festerson cut him off, and then he actually like had hands put on him by we call him Sheriff Rusty. He's got red hair. I don't remember his real name. Brad. No, Brandon. Yeah, whatever. See, they call him Sheriff Rusty. Anyway, he actually escorted Larry out, so that was it made the notes that I took during Tuesday's meeting.
And then looking at the members, so when was Mike Fahey? This would have been 2003. During that charter convention, Fahey let city council each recommend 2 appointments, and then he vetoed or would not okay 6 of them. And so he took, it kind of takes that, I know that Mark was doing the numbers on who gets to choose more. And so in that case, it started off with, the 14 members being chosen by the city council, but then he slashed that number down to 8. And so it hasn't always been, I mean, yes, it has been 25 members since the start. But none of this is set in stone. None of this it's all kind of up to the mayor, and even the timing. And it was, so looking back at the 2013 charter, it was really interesting. So in December, I think they wrapped up in November, and immediately after, Stothert was so pissed. She's like, I'm gonna have another charter convention like in a year. She's like, I didn't get anything that I wanted, and she was mad. But it's gonna be super interesting to see what comes from this. I have very little faith that anything, I don't know. Mark, I don't know if you're still listening, if you're putting the kids down, or Alex, do you guys have anything, like, if you could get to Bernard into Bosch, is there anything you would want to see even discuss at the charter convention, or that you feel like might get, besides the pronouns being changed or updated? I know that's,
I mean, the change of city council times, right?
wow, so that would be, is that even in the charter? I don't think that they meet at 2:00.
Oh, is it not?
I feel like that's up to them.
I think like if I could get Indian Bosch to come out and like do a workshop, I would want him to like do a presentation with like 4 categories, like, things that are state law, things that are like, because he's already receiving stuff. And like, even if it's like you had people who are going to attend the workshop, like write down like, things that they wanted to see changed. And so he could like look over them and then sort of categorize them, like, this is actually state law. This could be changed in the city charter. This is federal law, just so that, I feel like that would be helpful. So then it's like, you could put energy behind things that like were legit. Whereas like as an individual, it's a lot of work to be like, I don't know, is that a charter thing, or is that just a thing that they always say they can't change, but they actually could, like the city council time or something like that. That's what I would want more guidance on what could actually be done.
And I think not even just for the charter, but I've kind of just been, when I was doing work on the death penalty back in 2015. And I kind of just laser focused on the state legislator. So I was like, okay, don't waste your time, go into city council to talk about the death penalty. But I feel like there's all these categories of, who, and they love to do the not it game. Like, oh, no, that's a county problem, not a city problem, or that's a state problem. So I would love to see just a breakdown for what does each elected official, or even the unelected bureaucrats, what are their responsibilities? And when I've got X problem, who do I go talk to? But I mean, yeah, I would love to know what is even, I feel like the city charter is such a narrow, just a narrow of what can be changed or what's germane, what's, you know, what should we talk about, but that'd be great. I don't know if it's gonna happen, but it'd be interesting. Let us know if anyone does get in touch with Bernard and Nabosh.
Which, do you know that you messaged that directly to someone instead of to the whole group?
Oh, sorry. Okay,
Sophia, you got a direct message about
Here we go.
how
I
to
put-
spell Bernard.
here's
Indenbosch.
Bernard's fancy name,
Wow.
Indenbosch. Okay, there in the chat. Yeah, what's 55-763G? I don't. That might be an AUD thing. ADUs, yeah. We were talking about that. I know Brian was putting that in the chat that we're getting some movement on ADUs. That a bunch of neighborhood associations, I believe, wrote to the city.
They signed on to
They
the
signed
missing
on to
middle
it.
letter, yeah.
Brian, is that why those letters were timed for now?
ADUs.
Yeah.
I think that's what's 55-763. Man, if that could be a oh no, Mike. So, okay, Brian, we'll just read from your chat.
But yes, Alex, my understanding was that they were collecting neighborhood letters of support to give the city council and the mayor and the planning department all at the same time.
In advance of the convention, or, yeah.
I think it's unrelated to the convention. Correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, but it's just they've been fighting for ADUs. Yeah, not just every 10 years, but I think it's one of his pet projects. Not specifically related, but this, yeah, just timing works. So yeah, I mean, I think if it could get talked to the charter convention, that'd be great. But I mean, it's got to make it through the convention, and then it's got to be passed by the city council, and then we get a vote on it. So we'll see. Oh yeah, by the way, did anyone get their ballots? Their vote by mail ballots? We got ours. And there is. Did you even look at this? The last page.
Bonds, yeah.
There's a bunch of bonds on the last page of the election. Yeah.
Really?
I haven't even got a chance to look at them. But street bonds. I think it was a parks one.
Yep. And then
Sewer.
there's, yeah, like public safety one. Yeah.
Yeah. Bunch of money for potholes. Yeah. So we can sort of wrap up with the I've only got a few notes looking to next week's agenda. I don't really know. We've already talked about the real estate purchases. What did which we got Brinko Harding to get so pissed about when he said the most emphatic no ever. Yeah. One of the interesting ones I noticed, again, looking forward to this week's agenda, item number 32, $84,000 for marketing for the parking department. So we're going to spend $84,000 to marketing for parking. That's a mouthful. Yeah.
And they're already acting like the
Scott,
parking situation.
Scott, you already, I was typing that out and you already got me. That's what I wanted to point out. And more importantly, it's a no bid contract. Did you see that? And it was specified, there has to be certain stipulations of why it's a no bid contract. And it said that because the equipment is specialized and because they've had the contract for years, but essentially there's no specialized equipment with marketing, right? You know what I mean? You understand that that's your mind and that's your, you know what I mean? So that was fishy.
Huh.
But in the code, professional services agreements don't necessarily need to, but anyway, don't necessarily like that qualifies as potentially like, I don't know, it's a weird thing, but anyway, it's still not right.
No, and so yeah, and Sarah pointed out that the Benson parking meters or it's called something else, parking benefits district. But basically, they're talking about putting parking meters on the Benson Strip, and according to looks in the document, it looks like it's already a done deal. But man, there's some people on Facebook that live and work in Benson. A couple of bartenders we're friends with, not happy about paying for parking meters. We kind of have our own opinions, but it's going to be a heavy lift. But yeah, $84,000 for marketing for parking. And I actually know the project manager. Sarah Baker Hansen. She used to be the arts reporter, and the food reporter for the World Herald. So she's good, and but yeah, so that's going to be interesting. 84, not even for parking, just for marketing of parking. Yeah.
And I'm sure it'll be like the lead up to a lot of, because the parking is where they're taking the streetcar, money from at some point with operation anyway. But I'm just wondering how much of that will be talking about, streetcar, and then, these new parking districts, because the Blackstone one just passed, of course, no problem on Tuesday. And we're building more parking at the new Mutual building. And so it'll just be kind of interesting to see. Oh, the other thing in that agreement is Omaha's first parklets.
Oh, no way, I missed that.
Yep. So, for the record, there have already been parklets in Omaha, and it wasn't the city first, but they can think that they're bringing.
It's
the
fine.
first
Here, we
parklets,
made it.
yeah.
We did that. We actually, so when we were doing the parklet on 13th in front of the greenhouse, Sarah Baker and I forget the other person,
Lean.
another employee of M Space came to look at it. Literally, as part of their job, they're like, we're talking with the parking department about parklets. And so they wanted to look at our little parklet demonstration. So yeah, they can't say they got the first. The first by the city. Or they're gonna,
Yeah.
they just want to be whatever.
But
Oh,
that's good news. I mean, I think the fact that the city of Omaha is getting jazzed about parklets is something I never thought I'd see. So I guess we'll take it. But
and street eateries.
mhm.
I only have two other things. Number 41, this is minor, but it's an OPPD, so the power company. I don't even know what they're asking for, but I saw OPPD. It's funny because Begley will likely not abstain. I went and checked. He's for a conflict of interest because he's I forget what his position at OPPD is. But he did abstain from a Papio NRD vote. So it's weird because Councilmember Johnson will always abstain, anything to do with Union Pacific. And I know that she's not making any money from those deals. It's just interesting when they abstain and when they don't abstain. Oh, then I also found another one. There's an AFL-CIO item on the agenda, and Begley is the treasurer of the AFL-CIO. So there could be some financial benefit there, but he won't do it.
I want to talk about parklets because Isabel asked.
Oh.
So parklets are where you take a car parking spot, usually like parallel parking spot, curb adjacent, and you turn it into like a miniature park. So I actually got a little fellowship through Spark CDI to build the first one. We put that on North 24th Street outside the Fabric Lab. And then I wrote a grant when I was working with ModeShift to build another one on South 13th. So here is, Scott's about to do a screen share. This was the first one that we built in North Omaha. And now what's cool about it is they actually have it inside. So every time we are watching a live stream of something that's happening at the Fabric Lab, they have those benches inside for seating, which is kind of cool. And then you can find a picture of the one we did. You go to the motion.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So there's a thing called Parking Day, where communities all over the world actually all do these little parklets, and so that was the one that we built and had on display in South Omaha on South 13th.
And so this is a parking space.
Yeah.
Normally it would be reserved for parking. And then right after that one on 13th Street, ModeShift got a certified letter
It was addressed to
from the
Sarah,
parking
so,
department or from Public Works saying, we're not going to fine you.
But here are all the ways you did it wrong.
Yeah, we could fine you.
Yeah.
And next time you're going to need $1 million of liability insurance.
Yeah.
And so, and we actually talked to that I talked to that with Sarah Baker specifically. And she said that that's something they're working on, that obviously is onerous. That's too much to ask.
Ridiculous.
You don't need $1 million policy
For
to
a
park-
shitty
to
car
park your
that's
car
sitting
there,
parked on the street, yeah.
but if you want to put a little a bench there, you need, so that was,
Something that's getting worked out. But yeah,
Yeah.
we planted plants in the back. I don't know, there's a lot of different examples. So yeah, just Google parklet because they are rad as well. You're right. That was a fun project. Yeah, how that turned out. But yeah,
Yeah.
the good news is Omaha likes them too. and it's gonna be rolling them out, and we're gonna be paying M Space 84 grand to talk about how cool it is.
And then my last one that I had on the agenda for this week was the number 44, the Riverfront Trail. They're extending it from Miller's Landing to Kiwanis Park on Abbott Drive. And it looks like it's not, I think it's a 10-foot wide. That's bigger than a sidewalk.
Yeah.
But the one thing that sort of the main reason I'm bringing, I mean, not that it's just bike infrastructure, not that it's only bike infrastructure, but it's less than $1 million and it's longer than a mile. So if any of you guys remember when Todd Fitzer said that they were going to remove the bike lane on
63rd and Shirley.
63rd and Shirley, he told that to the Exarban Neighborhood Association, that the bike lane is the reason that cars go fast, and so they're going to remove it. And then some activists, I don't know who, glued plungers to the bike lane to make Omaha's first protected bike lane. Anyway, so Todd Fitzer was quoted as saying that protected bike lanes cost $1 million a mile. That is an exaggeration.
Big time.
Engineers, he's an engineer, are not allowed to exaggerate.
Yeah, they are. He proved that you
Well,
can.
so he proved that they are. And so anytime that I see any kind of bike infrastructure with a dollar amount attached to it, that's less than $1 million a mile, which is
like perhaps
everyone.
the Harney Street pilot.
Yeah, Harney Street was
$250,000 or something like that.
and it was only, and it's actually 1 or 2 miles.
Yeah.
2 miles for $250,000. So I've yet to find $1 million a mile protected bike lane. I actually I got into a discussion with someone in Sweden, and they were like, "Oh, we got one that's $1 million. We had to do like the conversion of a kroner to a US dollar." And they showed me what $1 million bike lane looks like. It's tree lined. It's got like 2 lanes. It's in the middle. You know, it's not
Free
anything.
ice cream up and down.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely not what we were talking about.
And even then, I think it was only like 600,000. Oh, I got some pushback. I'll wait till afterwards. But yeah, that's all the good things I have to say about that. And I'm sure they all will pass. So looking to next week's city council.
Did you see, Scott, did you see the revised TIF application for HDR's headquarters? It's managed by Noddle.
I saw it, but I didn't look at it.
It's unique in that I've never seen somebody go back for TIF for a project that is already completed, and so it's an amendment to the TIF that was already approved long ago, because HDR has been there for a minute, and
Yeah,
the inner whatnot, but so that all that extra space, basically, he's getting it's an amendment on something that was already approved, and so now it's like an extra $1.5 million for some pickleball courts and a greenhouse, and the funny thing is it says public amenities, but then you read further and it lists what amenities are available, and it's certain amenities say they're public, and then others are not. They don't say public. So are they going to make income off this?
Interesting. I thought it was for the dog park upgrade or something over there and football, and I didn't read the full.
yeah. I think I actually saw them at the planning board meeting. I remember when they were at the planning board. That's when we heard about it.
I heard about it first too.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Speaking of planning board, the union was actually one of the fun, or one of the good times when you see someone at the planning board. So the Union for Contemporary Arts, they're getting a new theater, I believe, a new theater space. It was so cute. I've known Brigitte. Geez, I've known her since I first moved here in 2005. And she got up and talked about parking, which was so sad. They were like, "Is there going to be enough parking?" And she's like, "Yeah." She's like, and there was a
There's 3 lots.
Yeah, and they're like, "Well, it says
Almost
here a 200 space theater." She's like, "No, that's a misprint. You misspoke. It's 100, not 190." Anyways, so they're gonna get. I'm sure it was approved.
Sure.
But yeah, yeah. that's pretty much it for our notes. Am I missing anything? I don't think so.
I was grumpy and didn't do a good job of dissecting the agenda this week, but yeah, it seems like enough. Anybody else have anything else to add before we hit stop record and then share our real feelings?
Oh man, well, so going back to this last week, there was the Deer Creek CRA
Oh yeah.
Deer Park.
convocation with the emergency.
yeah.
Deer Park, sorry, Deer Creek. Also with the extremely blighted designation. That was a mouthful. Don Seaton did a good job.
He got called a liar, and then he called the testifier a liar. It was kind of exciting, but I think that the testifier was pretty well spoken and had some good points, and a lot of it revolved around transparency and the lack thereof. And I don't know, it's that whole he said she said thing, but I'm more
That testifier rocked, I
Yeah.
thought. And one of the things I learned, since Don Seaton felt like he had to basically do a little mini course on TIF, or no, not on TIF, but on how they determine the blight designations. I had no idea that those are sparked by developers. Like
my God, yeah.
they get a request,
Yeah.
and that's when it's like, well, if this is the case, why is this not what the city planning department is doing as a matter of course? If it's based on census data, and I mean, it seems bizarre to me that a private enterprise requests that this designation be made instead of just using the public information on hand to, it just seems backwards to me.
Oh, Lori, it is so backwards.
Yeah, it's fucked, but that's usually how it goes. And that's kind of how you're like, oh, I wonder who was it that approached the planning department about needing this designation so that they can line up their TIF requests next. It's always how it goes, is like, that's sure sign that a TIF
we should all be real estate developers, apparently, because that's how you get shit done.
Exactly right. That's what I was talking with somebody about earlier, like, oh, if only we were all just wealthy developers, then we could actually have an impact on the city. But
I feel like every time I like quote unquote go toe to toe with a developer, or have question about a certain development or something like that, like the answer from like city folks and developers is always like, you should be a developer.
yeah.
And I'm like, okay, do you have I don't,
Yeah.
Can I have $4 million?
Yeah, exactly. Can you just give me all your money then? That would be great.
Have you tried lifting yourself up by the bootstraps?
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
I mean, I guess that's what those guys do, right? They get tips so that they can get investors.
It's all so bad.
Yeah, with money that they inherited from their daddies. I mean,
Good times.
But I did see where Jen Bauer did post a small little win for the 54th and Leavenworth townhomes, that they did take one of her suggestions. I think it was like the color that's going to be facing her house. So I did see that. So I know that we talked about that, I think last week, how Notto Company basically told her to go kick sand, and they're not ever going to build something. They're never going to build less than 2-car garages. And but it sounds like they took one of her suggestions. I think it literally was something to do with a paint color or some kind of facade treatment. So they do listen every once in a while, like,
Not enough.
yeah, only when it's like they do the bare minimum. And the whole thing about listening, I know that Tom from Riverside Chats was asking. He was asking on Twitter, does City Council listen? And I feel like that was the wrong question. Like, I don't think any of them are deaf. I think they all listen, but do they ever act? Do they ever? And they're certainly not listening to Larry. I kind of feel like, who are they? Like, they're not listening. I don't know. It's just a weird question.
yeah, I'm with you. It's the wrong question.
Yeah.
It's like, I feel like he's kind of an earnest, well-meaning guy, but yeah, it's not always the best interviews. I always have 10 more questions that I wish he would have asked. when I hear him.
Yeah,
Agreed.
I did call in and I just told him what I thought. That didn't exactly. I mean, it kind of had to do with city council, but yeah, I kind of what you were saying is.
Oh man, speaking of not listening, I think a great example would be Dr. Maureen Boyle, who is now our commissioner, who spoke at city council, specifically said, do not, keep Dr. Hughes in her position. And she's also a Douglas County commissioner. I mean, like the lists, she's got quite the resume. And if there's anyone, she's an expert in medicine and also an elected bureaucrat. And her fucking dad was, Mike Boyle, and so not only did the city council not listen to her, I don't know if you caught the debate at the legislature, they called her a liar on the floor of the legislature. There was like
No way.
some Dr. Boyle, they kind of acted like that. I mean, they must have, I'm sure if they don't know the Boyle legacy for Omaha. But I thought, like, man, she's not just a doctor. Like, she's a county commissioner. On and on and on. They said that she was misinformed, and that there was some Dr. Boyle was talking out in the rotunda about we're gonna just whatever. They're just throwing her under the bus. It was obviously it didn't work, so boo on them for. But I just think it's funny how they don't. If you're not going to listen to Dr. Boyle, then yeah, they're clearly not listening to the experts. So yeah.
Do you want to say your thing, Mark, after we hit stop, or do you want to share that conversation now?
Yeah, I'll wait.
Okay,
Cool.
Awesome. That sounds like a good.
I'm
time
gonna
to
hit stop recording.
Yeah.
So hold on one second. Hold that thought.